We're back. So if you've watched my channel before, you will have noticed that I have not posted anything for about a month after just starting my channel. So after a month of trying to figure out different sleep schedules for my girls, but I've been just trying to be a good steward of my time, even in the sleepless season, just to take a step back and to kind of be more intentional and prayerful, and trying to plan ahead on the content that I feel like the Lord is leaving me to put out. So this is where we are. We are back. We're going to go back to doing the things that I said in my initial video of doing some deep dives in scriptures on Mondays and doing some more just practical day-to-day life struggles, connecting with all of that on Wednesdays. Lately, I have been in the book of John. I have just been really meditating on what the gospel says about Jesus, about what Jesus reveals about himself in the Gospel of John. So I think we're going to do a deep dive study on the book of John, and we'll just kind of go passage by passage and talk about what's happening in the text, and just try to be faithful to allowing the text to be the text, allowing the Bible to be the Bible, allowing Jesus to be Jesus, and not trying to make him into anything that we want him to be or what we want the text to say. With that being said, step up to the mat with me and let's hop into John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. So if you've studied the Bible, even to just the surface level extent, you will immediately notice that the first verse of John has a familiar cadence. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And we often use this text to support the doctrines of the Incarnation, to support the doctrine of the Trinity, showing that these texts prove that Jesus not only was the Messiah, but was God himself in human flesh. And that is certainly true. You can definitely see that in the text. That is definitely supported by John and everything that he writes throughout his gospel. But I want us to dig a little bit deeper, because just because we believe that Jesus is God, or if we can say that Jesus is Lord, but what type of Lord is he? Even from the first verse, we have the statement that in the beginning was the Word. But what does it mean for Jesus to be the Word? To dive into this a little bit more, we'll have to go back to the original reference that John is playing upon here. And so that means going all the way back to creation, back to Genesis 1. And when you look at Genesis 1, and I've kind of explored this a bit in some of my earlier videos. I know I've only had 4, but there's one video that explores the creation story a little more in depth. You will see in those first verses, the ancient Israelites were trying to argue that God was not only God, but he was the one supreme God, the only authority over all things. The first verse of Genesis also has probably more subtle implications towards the Trinity. If you look, the first verse, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If you look at the Hebrew word for God in the text, it's Elohim. And Elohim, by all standards of the Hebrew language, is actually a third-person plural word. But the verbs that follow it are masculine singular. This again points directly to the Trinity, points to God being 3 persons in one. So with that being said, can we see Jesus come up anywhere in the creation story? And I would argue yes, because if Jesus is the Word, what does God use to put all of creation into motion? He uses his physical. He uses his verbal words. God speaks and the light comes into existence. He speaks and the oceans are moved and the land appears, etc., etc., etc. So through the very vehicle of the verbal word, or through Christ himself, God creates the world. And this is further supported by the text back in the book of John. He writes, "All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made." But I think there's another place where we can see Jesus in the creation story, and I think that is in the creation of light itself. So when God creates light on the first day, it's a different light. And you can tell that immediately when you read a couple days further into the story, and God creates the sun, he creates the moon, he creates the stars, he creates the heavenly bodies of light. So this is a different type of light. It's a light that makes me think of the quote by C.S. Lewis, and I'm going to look it up real quick. That's what I'm going to do. All right, here you go. This is the quote by C.S. Lewis. I wanted to make sure I got it word for word. So he once famously wrote, "I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else." And so when God creates light first, not the sun, not the stars, not the moon, but he just creates light, what immediately comes to my brain is a light by which everything was created, through which everything was created. It's a light that is the focal point of creation. It's a light that is the foundation of all creation. It not only reveals all of creation, it defines all of creation. And this is the type of light that Jesus is. John writes, "In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." And so to kind of tie these two things together, we have to actually kind of go back to the origin for word that John uses in this passage. And so the Greek word that is used here is the word logos. And logos doesn't only just mean like a written word, a physical word, verbal word, whatever you want to call it. It also means reason, it means logic, it means a sense of understanding. With being on this side of the resurrection, perhaps one of the flaws of our culture and our society is that in our Western Christian minds, when we hear word as it pertains to whatever appears in Scripture, we often think of Scripture itself. We think of the Bible. But that is not necessarily a correct interpretation as John is using it in his text. Because in the Greek culture, like I said, it didn't just mean word, it didn't mean what was written down, it didn't mean scripture itself necessarily. It also meant reason, it meant logic, it meant how you see the world, how you understand the world. So for Jesus to be the word is not only for him to be the fulfillment of all scripture, which of course he most certainly is, but it also means that he is our source, our focal point for being able to understand and reason everything in existence around us. The way that we understand everything is through him. So if you can kind of see where I'm going with this, if we pull these two references together, Jesus is not only the reason that we were created, he is not only the means by which we were created, he is the means and the way and the avenue for being able to understand anything else that is created around us, even being able to understand ourselves as a creation. If we want to be able to look at the world rightly, if we want to be able to discern truth, it all comes and has to start through him. So the way that I kind of think about it is think about my camera lens right now. Through my camera lens, you are able to see a little sneak peek into the world of my home, including the various pictures of the Eiffel Tower back there. Don't worry about those are going to be replaced. But let's say that my camera lens is your focal point for being able to see the world of my home. Now, if I were to put anything in front of the image, if I put my hand in front of the image, if I smudged the image, if I sprayed water on the lens, if I even came back in my editing resources and I changed the color balance or the filters or whatever, I would be distorting the image. You would not be seeing a true image of my home. In the same way, when we look at the world and we don't have a correct understanding of Christ, or if we're lacking in certain areas in our understanding of Christ, if we don't have any understanding of Christ, we're going to look at the world and we're going to see it not as it was intended to be created, but as we want it to be, or as the world is making it out to be. We're not going to find true truth in the world around us. We're going to find truth as we want to make it to be. So what I want us to see, even before we get into the nitty-gritty of John's gospel, is what he's setting up as a foundation for how he wants us to understand Jesus. He not only wants us to see that Jesus is God, but like the Israelites before him, he wants us to see that God is supreme over all things, that God is the supreme authority. Therefore, Jesus is the supreme authority. Just as God had intentions for how he created the world, Jesus has intentions for how he wants us to live in the world, how he wants us to approach the world, how he wants us to approach him. And so if we truly want to live as people who follow Jesus, we look to him as the light, the source for all reason, the source for all truth and understanding. So then the question is, what's standing in front of your lens? If you sit back and you ask God to help you survey your heart and you're honest with yourself, what needs to be cleaned off the lens, because we all have something. We all have something distorting our image, whether we're making something too big in our lives or something too small in our lives, or if there's a lie from the enemy that we're believing rather than turning to the truth. We all have something that needs to be pushed away, cleaned off, however you want to put it. Something needs to be taken away from the lens. Are you idolizing politics and stances and viewpoints? Are you idolizing family, your children, your career, your own self-image? Do you have addictions that you need to work through when it comes to approaching your relationship with Christ? Whether we like it or not, living under Christ means constantly having to surrender part of your life back to Him. We are all sinful people. We all fall short. There's always something we're going to have to lay back on the altar and give back to Christ. There's always going to be something that is hiding in the dark that Jesus wants you to expose to Him, expose back to the light, so that you can join in the true joy of being able to see yourself in the world as He intends it to be. And you can be pointed towards the hope that He's coming back soon to bring all that beauty back to its fullness. So these topics and themes of Jesus being the light, of Jesus being God, they don't go away. They're very prevalent throughout the book of John. So this is what I'm really, really excited to get into and deep diving this book with you guys. I hope you guys will join me along for the ride. That's all I have for you today. But if there are any observations that you have about the passage, or questions about the book of John, or just things that you love about the Gospel of John, then drop those in the comments. I would love to start a discourse with you guys and be able to edify one another as we all wrestle together to become clear images of Christ. And if you want to come along this journey where we do try to intentionally wrestle with Scripture, with God, allow God to be God and to give Him glory even in the midst of things that are hard, in the midst of things that are confusing, then subscribe to my channel. I am on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. I just want to find ways to serve you guys in this community, and I'm really excited to be getting back into this channel, and I'm excited to see what God might do through it. So that's all I have for you guys today. Go in peace.